Dr. T.P. Shashumar. So at present, Dr. T.P. Shashumar will join us, and we all know that Dr. Shashumar has been with us always. Therefore, he needs no introduction. Even then, he's a space scientist. He's a very renowned educationalist. He's an astrologer. He's an in several areas he has made his personality or his merit notable, and he is widely he organizes classes for students across the world. I can say that across the world. In USA he organizes, he has been to several times. In all the Gulf countries he organizes. He organizes Bhagavad Gita class regularly. So in all respects, he has vast knowledge, and we are happy to be with you, Dr. T.P. Shashumar. Welcome, please.
Namaskaram to all of you. I was connecting to most of the presentations what is happening. But by chance, when my brother Gopinath ji asked me to make a presentation, I gave a title just like that. Sometimes what comes from your manas is what becomes a way of talking to people. So I will try to connect from my reflections on many of the presentations what has happened. When I gave the topic building bridge between Ayurveda and yoga, it is not the yoga which is normally known as the asana which I mean. I was thinking about the whole Vedic system which we have, which defines probably as a problem solving prescription for most of the people. I'm sure when somebody gets problem, they get into astrology, they get into rituals, they get into gemology, they get into mantra, tantra, yandra, whatnot. So I thought I will make a holistic approach. That is why I thought I should have a bridge between the Ayurveda and yoga. So the bridge will be all these practices which we have in society today. Wonderfully, the topic of the conference is PRAJNA. The PRAJNA is not in the form of wisdom or knowledge. It is the wisdom itself. It is not look like PRAJNA or maybe like PRAJNA or seems to be PRAJNA, as pure knowledge as it is. When you learn it and practice it for the blissfulness, not for the well-being. Well-being is only for some people look at it is for physical. I understand you don't have to make a bridge which is already there, but we lost it and we made islands between all of them. That is where we need to connect it now. Otherwise it is already connected, well connected. But the mistake is from the modernization point of view, many people have made their own islands. Otherwise Ayurveda itself says Swasthya, Swastha, Rakshaka. What is can be done with all that. So it is not PRAJNA, it is Ridambara PRAJNA, which is part of the Prakriti. The Ayurveda itself has got yoga inside that. The spirituality is well built inside. That can be understood probably when you look through the Sankhya philosophy. Understand it, threadwear it, look in between the lines. Not as an academician, probably you should look at it with the whole sloka by sloka, word by word, where it can be applied, where it has to be studied. So there is an experimental part of it and an experiential part of it. The energy concept in the life force energy, when somebody mentioned about aura, and somebody mentioned about the faith system, somebody mentioned about the energy concept, all that need to be studied very carefully. So when Ayurveda, and if you want to call yoga in the modern technical terms, which I don't agree, as meditation, there are a lot of contribution from the Ayurveda to the meditation. It is part and parcel of the healing of the mind. Unless you have got a swasthavastha, how do you get into meditation? So it's all part of making you to prepare for the samadhi. Dhyanam is possible only when you get into that small swasthyam and silence inside you. That is very, very essential to understand in a pyramidic structure. You have to migrate from the base health to the pyramid top, which is actually the samadhi. That is possible, as Yoga Vasishta says, Purne Manasi Sampurnam. It is all in the mind. At that level you should reach. It is not just a faith or not a science. It is not intuition or reasoning. It is not thinking fast or slow. It is as you get into that. And when you talk about lifestyle, Midam Bhuktva Shatam Japtva Patashatam Shanai Vama Bhage Shainasya Bishak Gim Kim Prayojanam. Where do you want doctor when your lifestyle itself takes care of your health? How much to eat? It is not that Ayurveda says the food is medicine, medicine is food, which many people quoted, so I am not quoting that. But it says that how much to eat is also important. Ardhapuradayedannam tadardham varinam tata. How much to eat? How much water to be drink? See, I don't understand most of the people who misinterpret this and then give in the naturopathy treatment, which is also another big branch which has got a good market in the world. When Vyayamam is understood that Vayu and Ayamam is Vyayamam, Sharira Manaso Yoga Parasparam Anubrajet Adhara Adheya Bhavena Tapta Ajya Khadayoriva. If you don't understand the body and mind in the real sense, what is the purpose of talking about this? I am not explaining any of the slokas which I am chanting. I am just referring quotes because I am understanding that most of the people here heard this many times. In case if you have a doubt, just text me or look at DrTPS YouTube somewhere, type half of the sloka, you will get a full explanation, because I don't want to get into details here. So just now when Nambudiri was talking, he was talking about Nityam Hidahara Vihara Sevi Samichagari Visheshwa Sakta. That Visheshwa Sakta, most important. Hidaharam. Many people misinterpret this Ashtanga Hridaya Sloka. Hidaharam. What is Hidam for me? It is not what is Hidam for me in my tongue. The quarter inch of the tip of the tongue, what says me Hidam is not what is Hidam. What is Hidam for your well-being is what is determined as the Hitaharam. It has to be understood. If you are not, and if you don't get yourself into the real sense of action, what is the purpose of having a good physique and you don't put that into effect in action? What action? Which is useful for anybody else in the world, then only yoga comes. Yoga is you believe that you are one human being who is supposed to live a life for somebody's well-being. All my action should be for somebody else. I have to be into action. It is not karma, which Bhagavad Gita says is my taking care of my daily routine is not karma. What you do for others in your life. If you don't do anything for anybody else in your life, that cannot be considered as karma. So karma is more important. And that karma doesn't become good, then what will happen in the next janma? That karma will become a disease for you. That is what Ayurveda says. It is not that karma which you do for your selfishness. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogatshemam mahamyaham. Lord Krishna is guaranteeing your Lord Kshemam, Yogatshemam, only when you don't do your karma for your selfishness, when you do for somebody else. Ananyas chintayanto mam, totally unbounded, detached. That detachment is to be there in practice in your life. Unbounded, not having binding. But we are all binded to our sahaja situation where we have our closest people. Anything which you do, everything you do it thinking that what is that I am going to get back in my life. What is the benefit if I get if DrTPS is invited for a talk? If I give him half an hour, what do I get? If I give him 15 minutes, what do I lose? Nothing. It all is computed. It is not based on the merit. That is where we are totally confused with our brain, thinking about I. If you don't lose that detachment from yourself and then do everything for somebody else, ena kena prakarena yasya kasyavi dehina sandosham janayat prajna tadevam ishvara pujanam. That is what is ishvara puja. Let me do something for somebody else to make somebody else happy, and that time that happiness gives me a swasthavastha in me. I feel so happy. If you don't do that, you are in islands of your practices and leaving the root behind this basic knowledge. We need to construct bridges. That is the bridge I am saying. And we need to see Tantra, Yantra, Mantra, Puja, rituals, Ishtapurtam, Sanatana Dharma, all that connected together for creating a wonderful life which will make us in Swasthavastha. Yesterday somebody was mentioning that Ayurveda means you put a thread and a burthen down and the oil is pouring, and that is Ayurveda. I don't know which Susruta, which Charaka talked about this. They never used such systems. It is all bottled. I remember it is Nambi. Immediately I messaged him. We had a good dialogue. We have to understand. Luckily he is not a Nambi Narayan. He is Narayan and Nambi. So if you have to understand the sense of treatment, we must understand into the roots. Otherwise it becomes yoga center come beauty parlor and studio of meditation. It's all show. We all have yoga vibranti. That is why yesterday I was asking Mrs. Chowdhury about the happiness index, the well-being index. Why India is not that? Because we don't go into the root. We are always in the superficial. We don't want to understand things to the real essence to practice in our life. If we don't do that, we are in a vibranti. We want to show. If that is what we are into disorders. Most of the problems are because of that disorder, because we are not totally dedicated to ourselves. Our passion is not seen. The passion will make you happy. The lifestyle diseases is because we are not understanding the basic lessons which needs to be practiced. Otherwise, India would have been the best country, the best nation where we reach up to the first step of Ashtanga Yoga. Only one person, Mahatma Gandhi, reached the first step of Ashtanga Yoga and the non-violence which he practiced throughout, and that became the great message. Otherwise, Yama is good enough. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. You don't have to reach 8 steps. Reach only one step, but practice it 100%. But understand the holistic approach and you practice little bit of it. Therefore, if you are into Ayurveda, you are into Shastras of any branches, doesn't matter, you must have a holistic idea and the basic background in most of the subjects which you have. I was very happy in the morning to listen to the astrological part of it. We have in the astrology, sun determines, the position of the sun determines your health. But astrologers should not practice it for prescribing what is to be done and to say that puja is the pradividi for that. The astrology is a basic science. But the predictions and the parihara karma happens to be a false practice. So we should know what is good and what is to be bad. If you are not able to make prescriptions, why do you do a pathology? So an astrologer has to practice astrology. Morning very well said. You have to be an Ayurvedic physician. You have to be a psychotherapist. You have to be somebody who knows the real practice of the solutions. If you know the solutions, no pathologist becomes a pathologist just by learning it. They are into MBBS, learned medical science to the basic level, then specialize in pathology. So that is what is essential. Otherwise, the innocent patients, what do? They do themselves a treatment. When you have a headache, immediately I will find out why I have a headache. Then we have such a social system. Probably why India is very unhappy, because our social system is what is the problem with us. When we have a problem, we don't consult the doctors or the masters or the specialists. Immediately we will tell our friends and relatives and tell, I have a headache. And the friend will tell you, yeah, last time when I went and met an Ayurvedic doctor, he changed my oil and then the disease was cured. So let me also try that. So the diagnosis is done by the patient himself with half-hearted knowledge, the half knowledge, nor no knowledge sometimes. Or maybe you meet somebody else who comes as a guest in your house, you will tell me, I have got a headache. Immediately they will say, yeah, last week I started going for yoga practices, everything became perfect. So what do? That person will tell you, you were standing up all the time, your head was on top, that is why you have a headache, put the head down. You know the stupid yoga practice which says, where you have to put your head down and then the whole problem will be solved. I don't know which Patanjali taught this. Patanjali never thought about it. If Patanjali would have taken a second birth, he will commit suicide for doing all these stupid things in his name. And you go and tell that somebody comes and says that your eye is your problem, the ophthalmologist will immediately give you a glass. If it is an ENT specialist, he will tell you the nasal sputum has got a bend inside, the off center is what is creating problem, you have to do a surgery. Astrologer will tell you your Rahu is in a wrong place, you have to do this puja, that puja. I am sure you are in a problem. It is like the elephant goes to drink water in the pond and the crocodile catches the elephant. That is why I think most of the people who don't understand what is exactly to be done. And what do? Purva janma kritam papam vyadhirupena jayate. It's all because of your purva karma. See, when you read that purva karma, purva janma kritam papam vyadhirupena jayate. What is that? You have solution in the same mantra at the end somewhere. Kaniyani cha papani janmantara kritani cha tanidani vinasyanti pradakshana pade pade. Take a pradakshina. Why do you do Ayurveda for that? So when you get into something, you must understand it is the time and the space which matters. Your time, your space. It is all where are you taking birth, when are you taking birth. That is why we have the sun in the body structure, moon as Manakaraka, that determines. So understand the solutions has to be not island by island, connect all of them together, understand it. Morning, Dr. Gopi ji asked a question to the Dr. Ashokan from Baroda who made the presentation. It is, I am 100% sure you must ban all the independent astrology predictors because they are doing predictions without a prescription. You cannot go and test in your lab saying what is that you want to do. Understand the physical problem, where what is to be done. We have a beautiful, Nambudiri mentioned it very carefully, all the Shanti mantras. Om Dau Shanti, Antariksham Shanti, Pradvish Shanti, Apash Shanti, Aushadayas Shanti, Vanaspadayas Shanti, Vishwodevo Shanti, Brahma Shanti, Sarvam Shanti, Shantireva Shanti Sama, Shantirodhi, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. When do you get this peace? The physical, divine, internal, external. Unless you have the system in which where you have everything in Shanti, and internal becomes Shuddha. Pranavanavyano dhana samana me shuddhyandam jyotiraham viraja vibatma bhuya sangaswaha vakmanachachusrotra grana jihwaredo buddhyagrudi sangalpa me shuddhyandam. If my buddhi is not shuddhi, he becomes always diseased. He will only think about bad things. It's all in your buddhi. So if you don't have a satsang, what beautiful way Nambudiri explained it. And you must have that. See, I remember when I was director in academic staff college in Calicut University, one chemistry professor came and asked me what research I can do related to Ayurveda. See, we have a lot of medicinal plants. If that medicinal plant is not planted in the right place and use it, it will give you a wrong effect. It is not every plant is to be planted in every garden which you have. In some places, something will grow good. It has got a high energy. And if you don't plant it in the right place, you will have bad energy. If you have a place where Tulsi is not growing, your Vastu in that house is not good. How to rectify it? Make a lot of hibiscus plant around. So plant has got a great effect on healing the other plants. Vriksha Ayurvedam clearly explains it. I was lucky to study Vriksha Ayurvedam. If you have to understand Ayurveda, you must understand the plant science also. That plant science is to be understood from the Vriksha Ayurvedam. If the Shuddham is not there, how do you get that if you don't use the right thing at the right place? Amandramaksharam nasti, nasti moolamanaussadam ayogya purusho nasti, yojagaha tatra durlabaha. Just now Nambudiri mentioned. How do you understand which plant is to be used in what context where, when, which pakam is to be used? You use a banana plant, the banana which you use raw, the effect is different. When the banana is ripe, the effect is different. The raw banana can be used for the purgation, loose motion. It will stop. But you use the ripe banana, it will create loose motion. What a great science is this, yeah? So if you don't understand Vriksha Ayurveda, the pakam, the age, when what is to be used, it cannot be used in the right sense. So Ayurveda, for the body healing system, it is fantastic. Ayurveda, which agrees with the yoga practices, as the manas controlling the body, which is essential to understand together. And that is what I mean by bridge. The Ashtanga Yoga, which has been twisted totally. And today what people are doing, create only diseases. It is not ultimate happiness. Patanjali did not show these Shirshashanam, Sarvanga Yoga and all that. All this has come into practice in 1920s when Mysore Maharaja wanted to show some show. If that is not understood, if you don't understand the history of the system what you are practicing, if you don't go into the root to learn the essence of what you are practicing, I say you are actually twisting the root and then creating only market around for your survival. I am sure that Yogacharya who says everything can be healed by Sarvanga Yoga, when he gets diseases, he goes to allopathy, the antibody. And that is why antibiotic, it is all against biotic, anti against it. They all work against the anti, against the body. And that is what you do. And you call it as Swastha Vritta Sadvritta Acharya Rasayana. The Ayurveda prescribes exactly what Ashtanga Yoga prescribes. Swastha Vritta Sadvritta Acharya Rasayana. Ayurveda says. Ashtanga Yoga says Yama Niyama Asana Pranayama. Exactly matching. So where is the difference between Yoga and Ayurveda? But I don't know why Ayurveda people did not realize the real essence of yoga to get into the Ashtanga Yoga practices which is inbuilt in Ayurveda. It is not turned into physical exercise. That has to go. The basic knowledge in Ayurveda must be there if you want to be a yoga instructor. All the yoga instructors who are running studios and practices and daily morning massage centers along with Ayurveda, WWF, probably the gymnasium center with yoga, all of them have to be stopped because they don't understand the anatomy of the body. If they did, I am sure the new education policy 2020, if India has to get into this real, genuine, pure science of treatment, everyone who practices this must get into the real Ayurveda knowledge. Ayurveda, Veda, Mantra, Astrology, Indian Shastra, everything has to be clubbed and give a basic course. If that basic course is not given, I am so happy when the avian warrior was talking about this education system which is to be changed. Otherwise, as in the keynote address, Krishna Kumarji wanted to have not as an alternate science. It is always an alternate science because we have not made the base clear. Create the base very specific. Otherwise, we are only marketing medicines, marketing only doctors, not marketing the science behind it. If you want to show that market the science behind it, don't sell the medicine which is in the shelf. Ayurveda never did it. Otherwise, today's Ayurveda doctors becomes only Yamaraja Sahodara. Vaidyaraja Namastubhyam Yamaraja Sahodara. They are all Yamas Sahodara. Only difference, Yama will take the Yama Haratume Pranan. They will take the Pranan away. Vaidyandhananicha. The doctor will give you a bill also after that. That's only the difference. I think that has to go. Otherwise, what will happen? One Tirumalai Krishnamacharya from Varanasi, when Mysore Raja met him, this Tirumalai Krishnamacharya was showing some circus. And he was brought into Mysore and clubbed with a lot of gymnastics personalities. Mysore Raja made a lot of asanas. And that person became this Iyengar's guru. Therefore, the Vyayama Deepika, which is available in the documented Mysore Palace, it is available. When you read that, you will understand all the 200 asanas were gymnastic asanas. And that is why today people do the Shirshasana. And we call Patanjali and say that Shirshasana was prescribed to Patanjali. Which Patanjali did it? If you don't understand, that is why we want theoretical knowledge. That is where I think the philosophy, the ICPR, the conferences like this has to get into the root. Understand what is there. If you don't get into the root, what will happen? See, it's a beautiful Paramananda, the Yogananda Paramahamsa, whose brother happens to be the Bishu Charan Ghosh. In 1923, he started a physical education college in Calcutta. He was one of the best gymnasian person. And that gymnastics is what is practiced by most of the Yogasana centers. I am sure when you wear a jetty and then do make practices in America in 1970s, beautifully people followed. And from there it again got marketed back in India. It is understandable. If you are a person who understood the basic science and then start a studio which is a westernized practice, I have no objection into that. But then don't put the name of Patanjali. So if look at the science, it is not, we are not talking about 10,000 years or 1,000 years back. It is only 100 years back science most of the time. Therefore, if you don't get into the even pranayama, pranayamena yuktena sarvaroga samaraha ayuktabhyasa yogena sarvaroga samudbhavaha. If you don't, the Pradipika says this. If the Yoga Pradipika, if you don't read that and then start using pranayama practices, most of the people become diseased because of bad pranayama practices. Sarvaroga samudbhavaha. Every disease will come to you. The breathing has to be like a Tailadhara breathing. But then somebody becomes a Sri just because they get into the breathing practices being sold for 3,000 rupees per nose. And you add yourself as some big names behind and suffix and prefix, and you keep saying that I am a Adhyatmika, I am a Chaitanya, I am a happy person. That all need to be certified by somebody, not by yourself. Beautifully said. It is your microbiotics and the macrobiotics. You are what you eat. Your practice of food, your practice of asanas, what is the sadhana kramam which you have, that creates you into that sort of a life. It is not body care, it is not manas care, it is a holistic life pattern which is to be practiced. If you don't do that, then we will have all the problems that probably could be the cause. If you don't understand that and get into this prajna, the Ridambara prajna will not come. So, and what is to be practiced not when you take birth. 50% of our life determined by the birth itself. I am so happy Dr. Gobiji always keep talking about the birth has to be good. 50% of my ability depends on my birth itself. That's why Bhagyavandam Prasuyatha Ma Shuram Maja Panditam Shurascha Krita Vidyascha Vinesi Dandi Pandavaha. If that birth itself is not good, then the next one is your satsang. Your satsang will create you 40%. And 10% is what can be created and trained. And somebody believes that I can make a yogi just by making him practice for 10 years and he becomes a yogi. It is not true. It is not possible. It has to come from the womb itself, the birth itself. If that is what the yoga doesn't start from the life pattern when you become 40 years and from further onwards. It is before your birth itself. That is what the nature says. Look around, for every problem there is a solution given by God. I remember one of the practices when I was giving a lecture in the marketing strategy for insurance company. When somebody asked me in the morning when he was having nice coconut chutney, he was mentioning that this coconut is bad, coconut oil is bad, why Kerala people don't have this problem. I said Kerala people uses coconut shell as the spoon, and this coconut shell which is mixed inside your curry actually is a solution for the cholesterol. You smash coconut shell and then put in water and drink that water. That was the water given to us in our childhood. We never had any other packaged drinking water. So when you need to have a color inside your water, that coconut shell is smashed and given. That's a beautiful medicine for your purification. So God has given a problem in your coconut. I'm sure the coconut shell gives you a solution. There is a solution for most of the problems which you have. If you don't understand that solution, if you don't have that vision to see the solution, I'm sure we are in dark. We are searching in dark. And therefore, it is essential to look around, understand what is that which prescribed by our life around us. Then we will be able to get into a beautiful life with 100% happiness. It is not the same Charaka Samhita explains what is the beautiful magic of learning and experimenting. Sakshat anubhava drishto na sruto na guru darshitaha lokanam upakaraya etat sarvam pratarshitam. What is science is not shastram. Shastram is different and science is different. Scientific is different and shastra prakriti is different. So Ayurveda has got a shastram, and that shastram is not modern science. You cannot threadwire experiment things. So what is to be done? Sakshat anubhava. You have to experience it. That experience is what is being talked about, a scientific analysis. If you do that Aushadha Prayogam and the health practices, I am sure I am not quoting any of the or chanting any of the mantras because all of them have been told. And what is happening if you don't do exercise, it is bad. If you do over exercise, it is much difficult. Adivyaya mamadakkaso jvarasha dishchajayade hridaya adyubaro Charaka Samhita. I am not quoting from anywhere. It is Charaka himself said, don't overdo exercise. So which yoga which you are practicing which is going against Charaka's Ayurveda? The Sutrasthanam which exactly says you should not do over exercise. Is it not an over exercise for people to become upset down and then do all the monkey's job? There is a beautiful YouTube presentation which I have kept in my YouTube presentation. You look at it. It is not a monkey's job, which no Charaka explained, which is not in the Patanjali's explanation. Adivyaya mamadakkaso jvarashardishchajayade hridayadyubarodascha. Even you can get a hridaya, no heart attack because of that. So you have to be very careful in practicing. Don't give the old name of India and then start practicing all that what is not understood perfectly well. You cannot stop these people marketing things if you don't teach them. So a licensed program, I'm sure the new education policy should look at it so that you will get heyam dukkham managatam. The sukham will come to you. Otherwise dukham will be the present.
Respected Shashkumar sir.
Thank you. Stop.
Okay, sir.
When you say stop, I am stopping.
Shashkumar sir,
Yeah.
so you have wonderfully drawn our attention to very pertinent issues which normally people don't go into because people are always in the periphery. They are all with half-baked knowledge, awareness, information. In the midst of all these day-to-day routine, they never want to go into depth. That is why, because all the Acharya says prior to your talk also, we should go to roots. Unless and otherwise we go to root, we are totally rootless. And all these problems are because of our modern mode of thinking, education, practices, etc., etc. We are thankful to you for bringing into limelight these essentialities to be taken care of in the contemporary life. Thank you, and